morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. Very nice to have you with me this morning. And what a special day today. Why? Because just today's Thursday. You know what makes Thursday great? Well, most people will say it's far from Monday and close to the weekend. So it makes it their favorite day. So welcome to this Thursday episode. This is episode 73, I believe. And today I'm going to be talking about podcasting and whether it is something that you should consider doing or maybe not. But also, I'm also going to look at it from both ends. So I'm going to be looking at it from a listener's perspective as well as somebody who hosts a podcast. And I'm not going to get into exactly, how you plan a podcast and how you put it out and any of that stuff. This is more a discussion around why it's a great medium, and if it's something that's going to work for you, why you should seriously consider doing it. So that's what it's all about today. And let me make sure that everything is all good and ready to go. Let me say good morning to all you beautiful people this morning. We've got Slanganani. Good morning, Slanganani. It's been a while since I saw you say hello, I think. Terence and Kobus. What Kobus is saying, do you need a voice like Douglas Kruger for a podcast? Hell yes, but let's dream. I'll definitely answer that question. I think it doesn't hurt having a voice like Mr. Douglas Kruger, which I just can't do. And even if I try, I can only do it for 5 seconds. Anybody can do a Douglas Kruger except Douglas Kruger. So anyway, yes. Malcolm Hendricks, good morning. You're in the house here. Casper, good morning. Ian, Tinus, Chart van der Walt. Denise. Louis van der Merwe, good morning. Nice to have you with us, Louis. It's been a while. You've been a busy man, so welcome back. Kuvendra, Raymond, Carl van Vieren, goeiemorgen. Renate, good morning. Ravi, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Kuketsu as well. Albert, it's the first time is it the first time? I don't know. Let me know. If it is, welcome. If not, welcome back. Ghatsi Andy, Carol, and Renee. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me live this morning. I always say the live shows are really the shows that, it's awesome to be here live because then we all experience the same thing at the same time. And it's just nice to have this community, And with that in mind, please remember to subscribe. We're on 459, so one away from 460. And then, we're 41 away from the next goal, which is 500 subscribers. So please, and also don't be shy, tell other people about us. I get quite a number of requests that say, is it okay if I share your channel? Is it okay if I share an episode? Be my guest. If there are people like you, then please share with them because then I definitely want them as part of the community. Let them know about the show, and the value that you got. And also one thing that I also maybe just want to mention before we get into today's show is that let's say you fall behind because you're busy and you can't watch all the episodes. Don't ever feel a need to watch every single episode. It's not like you're missing out or that you're falling behind or anything like that. Then just look at, if you look at the titles, I try and make the titles in such a way that you can easily see what may be valuable to you and what you are interested in. And, so then just watch those episodes. And the nice thing is you can watch a bit, stop, come back, watch more, so you don't have to sit down for half an hour or however long an episode is to watch it. I appreciate if you do. I mean, that's amazing. But don't feel the need that you have to watch every single episode the full way through if you didn't make the live show. It's much easier to watch the entire live show than it sometimes is to watch the recording. So please, just keep up in that way. I've got quite a few people as well WhatsApping me and saying, I missed so many episodes, but I'm trying to catch up. And it's not like we're doing a series of things that the one leads to the next that you're going to be lost if you get somewhere in the middle. Look at the things that are going to be valuable to you. And I also want to ask you, go back to the previous episodes and go see which ones really stand out for you and watch them again. Because I can promise you there's a few things that you jotted down and maybe you forgot that you wanted to do. And that's actually, I wish I could have done it like a show like that where we could get some feedback from you. Like, what did you implement during this time? What's working for you? What's not working? What are you still being challenged by? So that'll be quite an interesting thing, but then we would need a lot of interaction on the live chats and all of that. So anyway, please give us some love, share, comment. Comment is so important. On YouTube, the most important thing is to subscribe. but it also helps if you comment and obviously chat and do all of that good stuff. And then for me, as I say, this is about the community, so please interact with one another, share. Yesterday's session with Rulof was again fantastic. There was a lot of interaction going on in the chat, people answering each other and giving advice and just sharing ideas and stuff. So that's amazing. I really appreciate that. That is what a community is about. It's not about one person, sitting here talking and having all the answers. It's in the community we have all the answers. So please don't be shy to share that. All right, so tomorrow is a big one. I'm really looking forward to having Lisa in the house. I'm going to be talking to Lisa about all of her adventures. And as I said, there's like a huge twist. And we're literally going to be talking about Mount Everest. So I think it's befitting that I named this Conquer Your Mount Everest, because that is what it is about. And Mount Everest is always one of those mountains that are on most mountain climbers, like bucket list. And it's not just, I'm deciding. It's you get up on a Saturday morning and drive to Mount Everest, and then Sunday morning you climb it. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting thing, and a lot of things that we can pull back to our lives and our businesses. So please join me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Me and Lisa, we're going to be here live. So don't forget that. Then you can also still book for the estate planning refresher. So please do so. The link for that is just francois.co.za/online refresher. Everything you want to know is there on that page. If you go to that link, everything is there. Any question you have, the answer will be there, I promise you. So go have a look what it's going to be about. I mean, this is like call it, if you want to, for some people, a crash course in 3 hours. For other people, it'll be a refresher in 3 hours. And, they were all, I can promise you, there is always a couple of enlightening moments in these refreshers. So I also try and make all these things as practical as possible and share some stories and ideas from my experience. So it's not only the theoretical stuff, it's how do we apply this, and how do we add value to our clients. That's the most important thing as far as these refreshers are concerned from my view. Alrighty, cool stuff. So just one last time, let me just see quickly who's snuck in a little bit later. Albert, thank you the third time. Very happy to say then welcome back again. I'm sorry if I missed you previously, or possibly, I don't know, have you said hello before? I can't remember. I'm sorry, but I'm very happy that you're back. Thank you so much. Innocent, very nice to see you here. Good morning. You are somebody that also has a voice for podcasting. So, have a look. Neil Phillips, good morning. Rizan, good morning. I thought you were preparing, but that's cool. George Dell, good morning. Welcome back, George. You were here yesterday as well. Alrighty, so let me get into today and all the good stuff that I want to be talking about, because there is quite a lot. When it comes to podcasting, I'm extremely passionate about that. I'm actually passionate about creating content in general, and I've done everything. I've done podcasting, or I'm doing podcasting. We've done these videos. We've done live shows. I've written articles, so yeah, there's another big project that I'm embarking on at the moment, or that I'm about to start. So, there's all these things that I've been doing. And I use it in my courses, and I use it like everywhere for marketing and all of that kind of stuff. And there's still a hell of a lot that I need to learn, specifically when it comes to how do you weave in stories, and how do you make a video, for instance, that tells a story, or how do you have a podcast that's really engaging around stories, etc. It's just a matter of focus, but if I had to wait for that to fall into place, I would never start. Never, ever. And I'm looking at some of the comments, like, for instance, like Kuba saying, do you need a voice like Douglas? Hell yeah. I don't know. As I said, it helps, but I don't think it's a prerequisite to be a Douglas Kruger. I mean, Douglas doesn't even have a podcast. I must actually send him an email and say, Douglas, where's your podcast? But he does have audiobooks and things like that. But yeah, so if I didn't start, if I didn't just in February last year decide, well, I actually decided in December already that I'm going to start this podcast. Okay, and it was quite a thing to go through everything and just come up with a name. And luckily I knew what I wanted to do, but it was a long time. It was about a 2-year process before I actually decided, like, now I know what I want to do. And it was actually like sort of a amalgamation or a merging of different ideas, and that got me to my final sort of structure of how we do propulsion. But I just want to share with you that if I didn't do that, we wouldn't have reached 4,500 downloads last week, and the sad thing is that this year, while I've been busy with the show, with the live show, I haven't been doing podcasts. I think there was one with Hugo van Zyl where we did an update on the expat tax stuff. And I haven't done one since last week. Thursday, I interviewed Kate Holmes. So in the process of editing that and getting that out. But I haven't been consistent with my podcast, but I've been very consistent here. And what I've done is I've built up a lot of things that we can release now onto the podcast as well. But I mean, this is amazing. If you think we started from absolutely nothing, no audience, no nothing. We had a small bit of an audience because I also obviously sent it out to my email list, and we sort of launched it. And, I don't know, I'm proud. 4,500 podcasts. It's 22 episodes. So what is that? 4.5 divided by 22. So that's 204 downloads per episode on average. Now, some are more, some are less. It doesn't really matter. We get over 200 downloads per episode. That's 200 people I'm reaching. Whether I reach them for 5 minutes or the entire episode length doesn't really matter to me. But podcasting, and this is the thing about South Africa, we are behind with everything that you can absolutely think about. So hopefully we caught up now, or at least to a large extent. But our time for YouTube is coming. Our time for podcasting is coming, and it's close. It's not far off. There are many things that are moving, and also voice is. I looked at Johan Vosloo the other day on the Advice Tech conference where he was giving voice commands to their system to do certain searches. Guys, it's coming. It's not in the movies anymore. It's coming. So voice is going to become extremely, extremely important. People are going to, over time, it's not going to happen in a year or 5 years. Well, I don't know. But people are going to start searching for things by voice. So they will ask Google or Siri or, I don't know, Alexa and all these wonderful ladies that do all the searching. They will ask stuff. And obviously there will be preference given to content that already is in a voice or audio format. Because, if you ask by voice, you want to listen to it. And that's going to become more and more important. So for me, it was about building up a library of things that will be valid for many years to come. It's not only something, we also talk about topical things, but podcasting is about, I think you need at least 80% of the time be creating evergreen content and not just topical content. There are some podcasts out there because they come in every different shape and flavor and category, and whatever you can think of, you will find a podcast for that. And also what you'll find is that there are so many people starting podcasts. I think they said that the average number of episodes for a new podcast before they stop is 3 or 7 or something like that. Because number one, and it's like anything on social media, you put in all this effort for your video and then you get 3 views or 10 views or 3 downloads or 10 downloads. And you're like, I'll eat him with that, like all this trouble for what? And that's not how I think about it. I think about it from I'm adding value. If I have one person listening, then I've reached one person with my message, and that's important. That person can tell someone, and that person can tell. So over time, it's going to go, definitely. If it's good enough and it's solid, it's on point, it'll go, I promise you. But also, the day that somebody does find you, there's going to be a whole host of things that they can find about you. And obviously there's 2 ways to go about it. You can either create your own content or you can just be in the media a lot, so you can be on the 702s and the classic FMs and that kind of stuff, or on television and, guest blog and write articles that are published on various websites so that people will find you when they're looking for you. You can absolutely do that, or you can just do your own. Okay. And you can anyway get into the media that way. But anyhow, so that's sort of just an interlude. So I just want to share with you, and if you are listening to Propulsion, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. And there's lots more coming for Propulsion, because the 2 mediums that I'm going to drive hard is like the show, but the show is eventually going to become once a week. And then I'll have time to do the podcast as well. So then the podcast will be back up and running, and it will not be the same content. It may be that we are going to repurpose some of the audio that we're getting from the show and, edit it so that you don't have all the hellos and the this and that, and maybe take out some of the stuff and just make it more punchy and then put that out as a podcast as well. So that will definitely happen. but we also have unique guests and content and things on the podcast. So yeah, and there's also some way that I'm thinking about using the two together. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, that's not exactly what this show is about this morning. Let's get into this whole thing about, what is podcasting? Because I think maybe you know, maybe you don't, or maybe you have a certain view about podcasting and how you think about it and where it fits into your world. And I just want to share with you everything I'm going to share with you. I'm not going to look at stats and trends and anything like that. I'm just going to share from my experience and my view and how I perceive things to be and where I see things going. So that's really how I'm going to do today's session. And if I think about what podcasting is, I think the best way I can explain it is that it's on-demand audio. And the thing is that if it's on-demand audio, means that you decide what you listen to, when you listen to it, and how much of it you're going to listen to. And so that's important. And then also you can listen to it on any device. It's actually amazing. If I look at the stats for propulsion, about 40% of people listen to the show on their desktop. Only I would say like podcasting is absolutely on your mobile phone. If you have the app on your phone, and there's many apps that where you can get this, but you would be able to get it on your phone. Like very few, like almost nobody listens to it on their tablet, but about 40% is listening to the show on desktop and 60% on their phones. So that's amazing. And also obviously to see the split between Android and iOS and all that kind of stuff. So very, very interesting. But that's really what it's about. And a podcast is usually free. It's not to say that you can't get a premium podcast that you need to pay for. One of the things we've been considering for a long time, it's just very expensive, is to have some of the episodes actually approved for CPD, which means that you can listen to it for free. But if you want the CPD, you can pay for the assessment and then obviously do a little assessment and then get your CPD points for taking the time to listen to the show. So it's that value added, but that's something we only want to do for Ignite members. But it is quite expensive to have these episodes approved and go through that entire process. So from an admin perspective, as well as from a cost application fee perspective, if people are not using it, then it's going to be too much of a thing. So it's something that's there. We may not, but we'll see. And also what is very nice about podcasts is that you can download them before time. So when you're in a Wi-Fi hotspot or you're at home at your Wi-Fi and that, you can download them. And anyway, audio tends to be very small if you compare that to video, for example. So you could download YouTube videos on your phone to watch offline. You can do that. But to get it downloaded, it's quite a lot and it takes a lot of space. Podcasts don't, because audio tends to be smaller. And also what they do is they compress the audio so that, so they reduce the quality a little bit to make that file smaller. But you can download as many episodes as you want onto your phone. So if you're somewhere in a tunnel, on a train that, there is no reception or anything on your phone, you can still listen to it. So that's really what podcasting is about. But also podcasting is a medium for somebody to get their message out there. It is a way to connect with people. And I'm going to get into that, the benefits for, or what is great for the listener and what is great for the host. So I'll get into that a little bit later. What podcasting is not, I think, is a very important question to ask as well. So what is it not? Well, it's definitely not radio. So if you think about radio, and this is sort of also gets to me where every single radio station now also have a podcast because they are taking snippets of their shows and putting it out as a podcast. It's just actually on-demand listening. It's not really a podcast, because what a podcast does is it focuses on a very specific topic or a very specific theme or a very specific category, and that is what they talk about. And it can obviously be like radio, because you can either interview guests or you can just talk solo. And so there are a lot of similarities. But if you think about radio, it's just going out to the masses. There is no focus, in terms of who they're trying to reach. They want to reach as many people as possible. And they hope that in that many people as possible, if they do a show about business, that there's enough business owners. And if they do a show about this, then, but a podcast focuses on one. It's almost like a show on a radio station, but just very, very focused. And it's a lot more personal. It's a lot more intimate. So, and I'm going to get to that, but that's really what a podcast is. It's definitely not radio. So this whole notion about you have to be a presenter. And I want to share this story with you because I always wanted to be a radio presenter. When I was at school, I was a DJ. So I was like the head party person, believe it or not. And I always was the one that was the DJ for any school functions or sockies, and I did a lot of New Year's Eve stuff and weddings and all sorts of things, which I did until I came to Joburg. So from the time I was 16 until I was about 30, I was doing that a lot. And, and it's because my love for music. And also, I mean, back in the day in the Free State, I still wanted to go and work at Radio Oranje, which is now called OFM. I wanted to be a what do you call it? A presenter there, or a disc jockey, or whatever. But my idea was that I would play music. Because that was my love, and that's the things that I wanted to do. And, and then obviously things happen, and you go through life and blah, blah, blah. And then a few years back, in Joburg, I actually, because I met this well-known presenter, I met her at a training session that we had at a company that I worked for. And I actually then put together the guts to go and ask her if I can have coffee. Because I said, I still want to, if I can in the evenings go and do community radio or something like that, then that'll be cool. It'll just be something nice, and I will learn how to speak and how to think on my feet and do all this good stuff. And then what she did was, we sat there, and she said to me, well, it's not what you think it is. And I said, yes. And she was telling me about, you have no say. They tell you what music to play, what happens in the show. So all of that, you don't have a lot of influence. Obviously, how you present the show and that kind of thing. But they are actually very clever in the way that they structure these things. So that's why I say that is why podcasting isn't radio. Radio is very scientific, and it's very, I don't know. There's a very specific focus. Listen, if you listen to any kind of show on the radio where they talk about, for instance, like Good Morning Angels. You listen to the kind of music they play before and after that segment. It's a way to get you into a specific mood. And we don't pick up on those things. So the music that they play, they look at what they're trying to achieve, who the audience is, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really engineered for a very specific thing. And, your own voice maybe gets lost in that process. It's just like, it is what it is. And actually what she said to me, if she was me, she wouldn't do it. And that put me off. It did put me off. And but that if you want to do something, it never goes away. And also I was questioning, sometimes these people think that, no, you shouldn't do it. And then I also thought but maybe she thinks I don't have the voice, or maybe I don't have the personality, or anything like that. So all these things starts going through your head. But, it's just I still wanted to do it. And that's the beautiful thing about social media and online content and things like that. You don't need permission from anybody. If I want to start a podcast, I start a podcast. And you know what? I've gotten 4,500 downloads on the shows. And if I was that bad, I wouldn't have had one. Or maybe I would have had 10. So it's, don't let these things hold you back is the message that I want to give you. If you want to do something, go and do it. And don't think you do it once and you don't get the response that now, and I'll get to that, why that happens, but and what you should do to avoid that. But just go and do it. You must just, and I've spoken about this a little bit before, where you need to think about what are you comfortable with? Are you more comfortable speaking? If you're comfortable speaking in front of people, video may very well be the thing that you really enjoy. So then maybe video is the medium. If you like to speak but you don't want to stand in front of people, then podcasting will be the thing for you. If you are communicating well and it's that kind of thing, and maybe you do have a great voice or you don't, it doesn't matter, but you communicate better one-to-one, podcasting will definitely be the way for you to go. And if you feel that you can express yourself better on paper, then writing will be the way for you to go. Obviously, we want to put out stuff in as many formats as possible to reach people that prefer different kinds of medium, but still, that is very important. That, just decide. So podcasting is definitely not for everybody. Absolutely not. And so just from that point of view, I wanted to put that out there. So let me just see. Sorry, it's not supposed to scroll. So the next question is, what makes a podcast great? Oops, 4 listeners. Let me fix that. I don't like mistakes. What makes podcast great for listeners? Well, so if you now put yourself in the shoes of the listener, what are the benefits if you are a listener of a podcast? Well, first of all, I can listen anytime, anywhere, on any device. When it suits me, I can listen to it while I'm driving, while I'm flying, traveling, while I'm hiking, while I'm exercising, while my spouse is talking, Just kidding. But you can choose to listen to these things whenever you want, wherever you want, for how long you want. And the great thing about this is that all of the apps that you can use, whether it's Apple Podcasts or it's Google Podcast or Stitcher or Spotify or any of these, if I listen to an episode for 15 minutes and I stop it, not even pause, stop. I go out, I'm going to other apps, I go do other things. And this afternoon I come back. When I open that episode, it will continue where I stopped. So you don't have to, where was I, and go seek for it. It's brilliant. So you can start and stop and just, start again where you left off. So that makes it amazing. And that you can't do with radio, because if you miss it, you miss it. And then also a big thing is that as a listener, you can subscribe to a podcast. So if there are certain podcasts, most people subscribe on average to about 7 podcasts, and it will change over time, because sometimes you hear a message, and then you feel like, I've heard everything that I wanted to hear, and then you maybe move on to another podcast or whatever. But most people are subscribed on average to about 7 podcasts. So being able to subscribe to a podcast means that you'll get notifications. So whenever there's a new episode and things coming out, you'll get that. And then also a big thing with podcasts is, and this is nice, again, mixing 2 kinds of medium and also making it more searchable than video. But and video is becoming very clever, where, Google are definitely doing some things about making videos more searchable in that. But there's also another app that I want to look at that I need to tell you about, where you can do lots of interesting things with videos. But anyway, is that show notes. So we are able to put show notes below the actual podcast, or as part of the podcast. So if you click on the episode, it'll show the show notes, and you can put all sorts of links and additional information and additional resources and all that kind of stuff in there. So, you can listen to the podcast, and they will talk about certain things, and they will then share those resources or any specific things or links to things that are important in the show notes. So you get so much value from that. So we can do the same with video in the descriptions below. We can also do show notes if you wanted to, but I think it's awesome that we can mix these two. And also, if you can actually, and I see this a lot where, I don't do it that much, but we've got on the Propulsion website where if you go onto an episode, there's obviously basically the show notes and then the embedded player there. So what you could do is also to combine that into a blog post and all sorts of stuff. I see some of the radio stations like doing that. But that is what makes this great for listeners. Apart from the fact that you can choose what you want to listen to, the topic, all that kind of stuff, and it's easy. If you don't like something, then you can just stop it. Just move on to the next one. So, but then also what makes this great for the host then? Well, from a host perspective, so meaning that if you start a podcast and you own your podcast and you're the person presenting or interviewing on that podcast, what does it mean to you? Well, if you really think about it, it's a one-to-one conversation with the listener. A lot of people are listening to podcasts using their headphones. So it means that you are literally in their ears. You are literally in their ears. It is such an intimate sort of relationship that you are building there, because and also the way that I would address a video is, you want to address it to the person, but again, even more so in terms of a podcast where you can talk to that. They must feel that you're talking to them because they're there alone. There's nobody else. It's just them in their little headphone world, and it's that intimate relationship in their ear. So you can build a much more intimate relationship that way as well. And you don't need this velvety voice in order to do that. It's just, otherwise, how do you communicate to anybody? I think that's important. We build personal relationships, and then also I think what a podcast is excellent for, from a host perspective, is actually building your brand. And also marketing your business, etc. So from that point, but also just you yourself as a person, positioning yourself as that expert that Douglas spoke about. A podcast goes a long way in doing that. So I can promise you that, yes, there are definitely people watching video and listening to podcasts, and often I've had a few people ask me, are you going to put this out as a podcast? Because sometimes I'm not able to watch, but then I can listen to while I'm driving or while I'm running or while I'm doing anything like this. So, people want to consume different things in different ways. And you've got to decide, depending on what you're doing. I mean, for instance, if you were doing tutorials on how to use certain software, that's not going to work on a podcast because people need to see what you're doing. But if you want to talk about concepts, I mean, like I would say 90% of our content is actually working, as a podcast and as this show and this video. And it's interesting that a lot of people have been referring to Virtual Coffee with Francois as a podcast, as a video podcast or whatever. This is actually just a show. Yes, it could be definitely seen as a podcast, there's definitely a big overlap there. But for me, this is a show because there's preparation, there's guests, there are different things that we're doing. So yes, we can do the same thing in a podcast, but a podcast is actually meant to be audio only. So that's what that is. But anyway, so there's a lot of people also putting it on. We also started putting it out on video. You'll see on the channel that there is a propulsion playlist, and there's 2 episodes there because I only started recording the videos, or also video recording the interviews recently. So you can go see. It's actually with Rizan Oosthuizen from Profile Me. So go check that one out. And then also my interview with Johan Oosthuizen, not the ones that I had with him on the show, but I had a separate one with him on the podcast. So those are the 2 that are available on here at the moment. So I think what is also great is that you can actually reach more people. And I've got listeners in every single country except South America and Russia, luckily. So there are listeners from all over the world. So you're reaching people, and it's so easy to share a podcast. It's so easy, and you can embed them everywhere. So embedding means that I can put that player in an article on a website. I can even, as far as I know, I think, I don't need to go check, but maybe even embed it on a LinkedIn article or something like that. You can create snippets from that and share that with very interesting ways and things to make people aware of this. So the shareability of a podcast is also fantastic. And as I said, it's really easy. And once you get into podcasting and you start listening to podcasting, you're going to be amazed at how awesome that is. And it's something that I do regularly. Specifically, sometimes if I just want to relax, I just want to go lie down and then just listen to a podcast. And some of them do put me to sleep. But that's good. That helps me sleep. But what do you need then if you wanted to start a podcast? Because I guess that's a big question. What do I need if I want to do this? Where do I start? Because, I obviously got a lot of equipment, but I didn't have this when I started out. Although I did invest a little bit into this at the start, just because I am frantically passionate about technology, and I'm frantically passionate about quality. But also I had the previous experience with audio and with that kind of stuff. So for me, that was important. But the question is, do you really need that if you want to start a podcast? Okay, so let's see if you need that. So the very first thing that you need if you want to start a podcast is your reason. Why do you want to do this? My reason was, one, I always wanted to be like a host of a show. I always wanted to do interviews. But my biggest reason actually for doing this was I want to have an impact. And one of the ways I could have an impact is by starting that show, Propulsion, that podcast, to reach people in a way that, because people would rather do that than maybe watch videos because of the data consumption difference. So my biggest reason, it's still fitted in with everything else that I'm doing. It's about having an impact and about helping people. And what I want to do is connect people. And I also don't just want to bring people. If you go look at the guests on that show, it's not only people that are very well known. You won't find the well-known names on there, as a matter of fact. There's a couple here and there. But it's mostly people that maybe you haven't heard of, but who's done great things. I've had people from Kimberley on the show that you probably haven't heard of. Some people in their circles definitely will know them, but maybe you don't. And we connect people to these people. But also then if we get well-known people onto the show, we give you access to that people. And I think that is what the amazing thing is that I'm trying to bring people to you. The same with this show. I've been very fortunate that there's been several people that's been helping me get great guests on the show. It's not because of me, it's because of other people helping me to do that. And I'm very thankful for that. But we're trying to bring this to you, to make it easier and to give you an opportunity to interact with them, which you don't always use, unfortunately. But that is sort of the thing. So your reason is extremely important. And then what you do need absolutely is a plan. So you got to know exactly who you're going to be, who's going to be your audience, what is it that you want to do for them, how you're going to do it, how often are you going to do it, how's the structure going to be. And I'm not going to get into all of that, all the different sort of ways that you can do a podcast, but you need to decide that. You need to have a plan before you even start doing anything. The third thing that you need is hosting. So just like the same as you need a website, to host your website, so you need a host that can provide you the space. So the host gives you the address and the land on which you build your little website house. So the same with a podcast. You need hosting. You can't just put it onto your website. So podcast hosts the hosting is built specifically for podcasting. So it's optimized for audio, for streaming, for downloading. And also there's some stats that they keep. It's weird that I think podcasting is now about 10 years, if not older, and the stats are horrible. There's not great analytics and things that we can get from that. But so there are quite a number of sort of choices. I haven't found a South African one yet. So if anybody knows about a South African podcast host, please let me know. But the people that I went with in the end, and I've been with them since the beginning, and you can actually, if you want to try it out, start for free with them as well. This is an affiliate link as well, because everything that I've been using quite well for a number of years or months, I eventually now became an affiliate for them. So it's not like, oh, there's something I can make money and now let me tell people to go to Buzzsprout. But Buzzsprout is absolutely amazing. I've been with them since the very first episode. You can start off for free. I can't remember how many hours you can upload for free, but if it's on the free account, they only keep it for 3 months and then it gets deleted. So obviously then and it's costing me about 200 Rand a month at the moment to do 3 hours of content that I can upload a month, which is quite a lot. In the beginning, I thought it's not going to be enough. I was on 6 hours initially. I downgraded to 3 hours. So I'm paying about 200 Rand a month for that. And it's there, and they have amazing tools. You can transcribe your episodes there. You can create snippets, video snippets that you can share on social media. They've got good stats. They help you to connect your podcast to all of the different podcast players out there. So it's really amazing. And then if you just look at their own podcast and their own show that they do to help people getting into podcasting or people who are podcasting, it's amazing. So if you want to go check it out, then you can just go to francoisdutoit.co.za/Buzzsprout. So that'll take you directly to Buzzsprout and you can see what it's about. You can sign up for a free account and then just try it out, see what it's about and how it works. But anyway, so that's what you need. You definitely need a host. And then you also need obviously some form of a recorder. So initially I bought the Zoom. Now I can't even remember the number. Is it the H4? Whatever. It's a field recorder. So it's a nice machine. And I'll do more on the podcasting thing. I'll show you. So it's a recorder. It's a mobile. I can just plug my microphone. You can take 2 microphones, plug it in there, go out, record from anywhere. It works with batteries. Fantastic. And you could do that, okay? But you actually don't need anything more than your phone because this thing can do, all of them have got voice recording software on it. The one thing that I would suggest you do, you don't have to because they've all, and the newer your phone is, the better because then the mic quality and that will be better. But what you do want to do is to maybe get a little external microphone. And there's many different ones that you can get for it. It's going to cost you in the order of 1,000 to 1,200 Rand for a proper one. There are cheaper ones, but I'm a Rode fan, so you can see, I don't know if you can see anywhere here. That's a pod mic. No, this thing here. So let me show you. There's Rode. So I'm a big Rode fan. And so everything I purchase in terms of this is Rode. I've got a couple of 8kg microphones. They're extremely good. They're not as expensive. But yeah, if you can get Rode microphones, I just love the way and the quality. It's an Australian company, but that works well. But anyway, that's all you need. And then you just record your voice on here. There's even apps that you can edit it with on your phone. But you need some kind of, just at least basic editing skills. Just how do I delete a section that I don't want? Maybe you made a mistake. Just take it out. That kind of stuff. Maybe you want to insert your intro and your outro and do things like that. So you don't need like this massive, I need to be an audio file to be able to do it. No, you don't. Just go in, just do a straight, just at least take out the mistakes. That's all you need. And I'm going to give you some power tips in a second that will help you get started very, very quickly so that you don't make the mistakes that I did, because I made some horrible mistakes because I had this idea about I'm going to do these deep dives like Michael Kitsis. I want to go deep, and it's going to be an hour and a half, 2-hour episodes, and really dug into the detail. And I did that the first couple of episodes. And they did well, by the way. They are still some of my best performing podcasts. But there's a few challenges that sort of came with doing something like that. So let me get into the power tips to get you going very quickly. Well, the very first thing is, like, if you start off, keep it short. Start off with 5 or 10 minute episodes, maybe 20 minutes. Don't go longer than that. Just keep it short. And the next thing, I always wanted to do interviews for my podcast. That was the whole premise. If you go to the website and you look at the About section, so it's propulsion.co.za, you'll see that I am, like we say exactly that we're going to interview people, we're going to talk. And not that I don't do solo episodes, I do. But it's like, I think 90% of the episodes have got guests on them. So I started off interviewing. And the thing is, that very first one was an hour and a half. So it took me 6 hours to edit my very first podcast. Now, I mean, that's a full day. If you think about the recording, going out, and then I still went to people to go and do the interviews at their premises. So it was traveling there, doing the interview, coming back, editing for 6 hours to get an hour and a half episode, which was brilliant. I mean, it's nice. It's a deep dive, a lot of information, so it's awesome. But yeah, it's taking me too much time, and I didn't have the money to pay somebody to do this for me, and so I had to do it myself. But the great thing about doing things yourself in the beginning is that you learn how it works and how it can work, and it's just like you get better and better at the process, because unless you're doing it and see what's taking time and what's frustrating you and what's causing issues. So in the beginning, I was editing out every single and ah, and like, no, because when we have a chat, if this is a conversation, we will say and we will say ah, and we will like stutter sometimes. And that's okay. It's very natural. So now I only take out really mistakes from an interview. If there was a mistake, sometimes I lose my train of thought while I'm talking to a guest. And so that I'll take out. But otherwise, it's just like we've done the recording. And also sometimes, we will talk about things and we will decide maybe it's not appropriate, or maybe it doesn't really add to the conversation. And then those things I'll take out. But that's very rare that is actually the case. My next step, so apart from keeping it short when you start, is to start off solo. So just sit, just like I'm doing now, just have a chat. And also, you need to get into this habit. I mean, I was listening to a recorded webinar yesterday that somebody sent to me from one of the insurance companies. And I'm laughing now because I think I did exactly the same thing. Where you get so into like, this is what you want to say, and like, so you have the script, so that you don't say and ah, you just talk naturally. Well, you talk naturally, you don't talk naturally because you're reading. And this person was just like, and you could hear like, this is like reciting at school, everything that comes from it. And then when the guest starts answering stuff, they're just talking and it's flowing and it's awesome. So I think we should get away from scripts and just be yourself. Just have a few bullet points. Know what you want to cover. What is it? What is the point you want to get to? Plan it in your head before the time, and then sit down and have a conversation. And I found now doing this show that the best thing I could do is to have a conversation with a camera. Because if I focus on the camera, and you can even do this, I mean, the camera doesn't have to be on, but you can have the camera here so that you have somewhere to look at and just feel like you're talking to somebody. Because otherwise, if you're looking at the microphone, it's very daunting. And it does distract you from what it is that you want to say. But if you're looking at the camera that's a little bit further away, you can just chat, just talk. There's nothing saying that it's got to be scripted and doing like this, And that's what I like about like some of the guys that are still on radio, that they are very good at that. Then also it's very important to have a schedule, to know that you're going to post once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever that may be. You got to have a schedule, and the schedule goes far beyond when are you going to release your episodes. It's also like, when are you going to do your interviews? So what we've done earlier in the year before we started with this show is to say, well, every first Tuesday of the month, we're going to do all our interviews. So we do 3 interviews on a day, and that'll be content for the rest of the month, sometimes a month and a half. So you got to have that kind of sort of schedule in place so that you know what needs to happen when. And also you need to schedule maybe your topics. If you can plan ahead, And there's different ways that you can do this. You can either have themes or seasons, or you can just have random episodes, or you can have different episodes with different themes, or you can just have sections in your show. So you have a tech section and a practice management section and a whatever, from my perspective. You may say, oh, listen, I'm going to be talking about life, and I'm going to be talking, let's say you take the balance wheel, of life, all the areas in your life that you can look at. And maybe you want to say, well, I want to focus on these three, and every episode will have a segment on each one of those three things. So that could be an idea. Consistency is everything. But this goes through everything that we do. It's like just being consistent. So if you say I'm going to do it once a month, do it once a month. So I'm going to basically restart my podcast, because during lockdown and at the end of last year, we didn't do anything in terms of the podcast. And so definitely going to get it back up and running. And now that we've got so much audio already recorded, we're going to butcher them and chop them up and repurpose them for that. So now there's a lot of content that we can release, but also I am doing, we've scheduled more interviews with more guests that will be exclusive to the podcast as well. So that's also coming. And then you got to have a marketing plan. That is the biggest thing that I think I did that quite well. We had a launch. I had somebody write. I wrote everything that I wanted to use in the release and all of that, and then somebody else edited it for me, and we rewrote it, and then it was sent out. We sent it out to a couple of people. Like F8 News published about it, Money Marketing published about it, I think that was two. There was a third publication that also sent it out, or that published about it. But you have to have a marketing plan, because doing the episode and putting it on Apple Podcasts is not going to get you downloads. It's not. It will. There is always people searching for stuff, and if it's relevant and put together well, they will be able to find you. But it's not about that. You got to make people aware. You can have the best product in the world. If you don't tell people about it, they won't come and listen. The same with a podcast and a video and anything. The real work starts when you this isn't like build it and they will come. The real work starts getting people to, and that's why I say, if you start off, so I'm interrupting myself, but when you start off, maybe release an episode once a month, and then take the rest of the month to really promote that to your audience. And I would start off, if you've got an existing client base, do something for them. Something that you can use very well for this is saying, well, what are the questions that I get regularly? What are the things that, imagine if you could put out just a little 10-minute podcast when all of this stuff hit the fan, that you could send out. A lot of people, you can do it via a voice note on WhatsApp and send it to your clients and tell them what you think and that, and how they should think about and how they can get hold of you. And you could reach a lot of people, or like all of your clients at the same time. And you don't have to take one call after the next. Only the people who really want to talk to you is going to phone. So, that could have been very, very helpful. So there's many ways that we can use this. So let me look at the comments quickly. I see there's quite a number that came in. Let me just see where I was. Where are we? So Arun says, Franco, from today you can be our DJ. I will do it with love. I still do it, like when we have people over and we braai, which we didn't do for a long time. Then, I am the resident DJ. So, absolutely. Let me quickly see. Good morning, Lilani. Glad I'm tuning this morning. I've already set up my own podcast channel. Yeah, Amanda, you've got the book and you've got like all the stuff that you can do. Like, just go for it. And now I'm waiting for the right date to record my first. Thereafter, I hope it will at least a weekly thing with informative topics. Whoop, whoop. I will support you all the way, Amanda. Go for it. And let me know when that launches so we can tell everybody about it. Let me know. And then Razan says, I think you have clearly proven over the last 73 days that consistency is key. Thank you. That is very true. Thank you, Kobus. Louis, good panel last night on CFA. Yeah, I missed that one, unfortunately. If there's a recording, Louis, let me know. Please. Arun from Sunday. We spoke about that. Sorry. Don't hold yourself back. Absolutely. Just go and do it. And also, even if you just do these recordings, like I said yesterday as well, you can make videos and videos and videos. When was it? Yesterday, the day before. You can do videos and videos. You don't have to release them. But unless you start doing it, and also stop being critical. You know how often, this is amazing. Like most of my guests, the majority of them, like when I send in the final podcast to listen to, they all want to re-record it. all of them. And then it's like, no, I know when something is not good enough or when it's bad or, when, I also think we need to redo that. No, and then I always talk them into, no, I'm happy. I am sincerely happy with what has come out of this. And then people enjoy it. We get 200 downloads plus, it's amazing. So, and then it's just that when you hear yourself, on audio, it's weird. It's weird. It's not the same you hear yourself in your head when you are talking. So it's different. So that makes people uneasy. And then they're very critical about and and, I don't know if that answer, I could have answered it this way. No. So you can record a lot of these things if you want to keep it like short 5 little episodes, boom, 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 boom. You don't have to publish it because everything happens offline. You've got to publish it to the host before it becomes available. So just go and do it. There you go, Carol. No more words needed. What platform is most effective for loading a podcast to be listened to all over the world? So the biggest one still is Apple Podcasts. But now Spotify has gone seriously into this. I mean, they've bought the rights to the sole rights to the Joe Rogan show. So they're definitely going to have, they also bought an app called Anchor, which clearly shows their intention to go more into that market. So Apple, definitely the biggest one. Google Podcasts have now started last year somewhere. But so they just go around finding podcasts and then listing it on their site. I saw there was some changes. I actually need to go look at it so that you got more control over what they see and do, I think. But those are the big ones, and Stitcher. But here's the thing, on how many platforms I found my podcast, which I didn't submit to, because there's an RSS feed. They can find it and they can just add your RSS feed to their platform. But the biggest ones are definitely Apple Podcasts by far. And then I would say Stitcher and Spotify. So those are the three main ones at the moment, but it changes all the time. There's some things called Player FM and Tune In, and there's also iHeart Radio. So there's quite a number of them. But if you go to Buzzsprout and it's on there, it shows you all of the different players, and you can connect to them so that it gets there quicker. And you do it once in Buzzsprout and it gets distributed automatically every time to the different platforms. So definitely that's the one. But Apple Podcast still is by far the main one. So Manna says, using the app Anchor. Yes, please have a look at the app when you have time and give your input. So I've used Anchor for a little bit in the beginning. The one thing and as I said, Spotify bought them now, so I deleted it off my phone. I don't have it anymore. But what my issue was with Anchor is that they had too much control and they actually owned my content in a sense. I didn't like that because everything happens on their platform. And I like to have things here on my computer. I edit it on my computer. It's my stuff. I can do with it whatever I want. And also, what happens if they go down, or what happens if, I don't know. But it's great. A lot of people are starting on Anchor. Nothing wrong with Anchor. It was that's why it got so very popular, is because it's ease of use and people can leave you messages, and you can on the app have a guest, and it's really amazing what you can do with that specifically, because I don't know if you can do it on the website, I can't remember, but it is built for mobile so that you're able to do that from your mobile. So it's a studio for podcasting on your mobile, but they also host your podcast and all of that kind of stuff. And there's some other social things built in there. It's not a bad app at all. How popular is the podcast in South Africa? Not yet that. It's definitely picking up steam. If I look at, we've got great shows like the Matt Brown Show is something that I listen to. I used to listen to the SME podcasts from Marnus Broodryk, and but there's a number of them. I can't recall all of them now, but it's definitely picking up because people are becoming more and more aware of this. And I think because in South Africa we're also very data sensitive in terms of not my data, but the data consumption. How much a gig is costing me. And because most people are accessing into the internet through mobile, they are definitely more sensitive to that in South Africa. But it's definitely picking up. And that's the thing, if you're going to wait until podcast becomes mainstream or very well known or very popular, then you've missed the boat. Because then people that are coming on are finding people that are established. So you want to establish yourself as quickly as possible in this market at the moment. The same with YouTube in South Africa. It's only now really starting to get something. Nothing wrong with affiliate marketing. I'd rather support your tried and tested methods. Thank you, Carol. I really appreciate it. It's a hard thing for me. I'm not a big salesperson, and I love sales. I've gotten to love it. but also, it's some ways to make it off here, but at least I know that my name is on the line, so we won't recommend anything that we don't use ourselves. That is the thing. Do I use it myself? Does it work for me? Do I love it? Somebody said yesterday to me, I help people putting their training website and their online course and sort of how things work. I help them with that. And he said to me, like, they looked at Screencast-O-Matic and it's not worth the cost. And I'm just thinking, like, no, it's cool because they use iMovie, and iMovie can apparently do all these things because they use Macs. And I was just thinking about, like, okay, but it's $12 a year basically. So, I mean, like, even at that, it's definitely worth it because I can do so much more with that. But anyway, for their need, they felt like iMovie was better for them. And I'm happy for them to tell me that because it's not going to be for everybody. But what I can tell you is that that's all I use. And it works very well for me. And I've been using it since 2017. So it's not something new. So yes, so rest assured that if I do suggest anything, it's because I've used it. It's not because somebody is paying me to say so. It'll always be from my own experience. Thanks, Neil. Ek dink jy seker klaar weg. Lyk of jy 'n goeie DJ word het. Yeah, well, we're working on it, Tinus. Guys, so that is my story for this morning. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the comments and the chats. That was very nice. It felt like I was having coffee with you. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I wish you a wonderful day. Tomorrow, please remember, Lisa at 8 a.m. Don't miss that. It's going to be a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic show. Lots of insights and thrilling moments and a twist. So come and listen to us and enjoy Friday morning with us. Thank you very much for being here. I will see you tomorrow. Cheers.